Welcome to another overtime every time session. Yours truly. We're working out, training, exercising. What a day. Got some sun. My Pope the King the Sun. Got some storms, got some thunder, got some lightning. 4 times it rained already. 4, it stopped. It was sun, it rained, it stopped. It was sun, it rained, it stopped. It was rained, and it was stopped. Then it was rained, and it was stopped. Then it was sun, and now kind of gets at that in between. So we're going to see who made it on this up and down, stormy, sunny weather day. Hakala Mantra with lots of thunder earlier today. You can see the black gray clouds, and I guess there was the dissipation of the clouds, and here we are. Gonna begin with gratitude, grateful, thankful, my rent paid, electricity bills paid, and got food, got coffee. I was moody a bit. I gotta say I was a bit on the moody side a little bit, I guess. A little bit more than yesterday, a little bit more than Tuesday, a little bit more than Monday. But now I'm good. Always good. I got for $5 for my comeback. When I get back to my headquarters, I got sweets, chocolate bars. Thank goodness, goddess, blessings that the price didn't go up, because the price went up on the wafers, so I'm grateful for that. And I spent exactly within the budget. I actually had a $6 budget, $6.60, but of course I stayed within the budget. I only spent $5 exactly, I believe $4.80. Gotta check the bill. That's exactly the bill. So I stayed within budget. Gotta check exactly the bill. Sometimes it's good to double check your bills and double check. You know, I'm always open for business and pleasure, 24/7 overtime. Dragon, encouraging all to work out, train, exercise. There's the sun piercing the clouds, and let me just double check if I gotta get that bill. Saluting the construction workers, the plumbers, the electricians, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the bus drivers. You know how we do always for the collective North American Civilisation of workers. Please be nice to the grocery store clerks. Maybe they were a bit, I don't know. Here it is, the bill. So this is what I spent, although with taxes. Let's cross the street. Kind of go left and right. You got 19 seconds, and that's where we're gonna be here in the sun checking the bill, and we're gonna cross. I don't think we have to cross here, but we can cross all the way there. So let's cross safely. Once we're crossed safely, now we can check that bill, you know. So I spent, it was 4, with taxes it was $4.93. So $4.93, see, that's what it was, $4.93. The bill, see, you can see it there. I don't know how visible it is, but that's my, there we go, now we can see it. Although I was prescribed some glasses myself, but now you can check the bill. So this is what I spent, $4.75 it cost for 4 different pieces, 1 wafer. The biscuit carrier, they went up. They were $1.50 though. Okay, so no, the gopher was $1.50. The other one were $2, so these ones didn't go. The ones that went up are these ones. The Titans were 50 cents 2 weeks ago. So they went up to 63. And the other ones, again, that I used to buy, went up again. So they went up. 2 different items that I used to buy. But now I bought them for 63 cents. That's 30% increase. But the other ones went up as well. So as you can see here, let me double check you. So these went up, but the pyramid wafers I didn't buy. Instead, I bought the $1.50 ones, because the wafers went up. So see, those in the middle there that are 63 cents Canadian, those were 50 cents 2 weeks ago. So the price went up 2 weeks ago to 63 from 50 cents. But that's a considerable amount in terms of percentage, right? So that's the main problem. And another price that went up, of course, is the pyramids wafers. They were last week, and I bought them $1.75, and Tuesday when I went to the movies 2 days ago, today's Thursday the 17th of July, they were of course $2.25, so they went up by 50 cents. So everything's going up every day. All the prices are going up, they keep increasing, but I'm glad I stayed within my budget. I had a $6.60 budget for today, you know, because I'm a tight budget. So being that I'm always open for business, although, you know, with my neurological mental divergence of Asperger's, it is more difficult, you know, because Aspies, we suffer from a lot of misunderstandings, and it was a very high, unacceptable high rate of unemployment for Aspies like myself. It's 80%. That's 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10, 80%. That's 11 times more than you, the neurotypicals. When I say you, I'm making a reference, a polite reference, because there's no antagonistic sentiments or feelings to the 99.56%. The 99.56%, of course, are the majority of the population, which of course have to be given on the left, right, Z, and we all gotta be on the side of the things, which we always got to build bridges, you know, small bridges, medium-sized bridges, big bridges, as super big bridges. And within those 4 categories of bridge buildings, of course, we have the 4 subcategories. So that is what it is, and that's why we have to do it, and that's why we have to get on the rock and roll side of things always and explain again what Asperger's is. But that's one of the main 3 problems which Aspies face. Very high unemployment, very too much, 80%. So that's totally unacceptable. But we have our strengths, we certainly have our weaknesses. And I said I was a bit moody today, but now I'm joyous, 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 joyous. Happy, happy, happy. That's what it is with that, but that's what we got. That's how we gotta get that rock and roll. And somebody's laughing happy, and that's a little bit of that happiness, which is good, a little bit joyous, you know. So it's something which we gotta sometimes even laugh at ourselves sometimes, you know. Like I learned to really appreciate my difference, although I suffered, struggled, and been depressed, been suicidal. But you know, I was just thinking, you know, I went shopping, I shopped for those sweets, and I said, hey, my moodiness aside, my financial stress, all the suffering, struggle, that person who's serving me has nothing to do with that. You know, I'm not gonna take it out on him or her or anybody else. You know, my issues, if I can help somebody, I will, and if somebody can help me, work with me through my dream, the dancing goddess and the dragon kingdom, then that's fine, because I don't want to waste nobody's time, really. Because time, you know, is life, and we gotta enjoy this life as much as we can, and consent and hygiene. And I'm only looking for friends with benefits. Aspies, I lost a lot of friends, don't will to make any other friends, but friends with benefits, you know. If that's the case, make friends with benefits. That's that rock and roll, and friends with benefits, we rock and roll. See, that's the mountain where we are yesterday. That's where we passed, and that's where we pointed the camera towards here. See there. So you can see that the mountain can be seen afar off, you know. You can see the mountain afar off, and look at a beautiful cloud. Now I'm gonna appreciate this beautiful weather, because it cleared. I guess it cleared for me, for you, for us. Now I will to go check who's made it out to go work out. At a beautiful sky. Look at that beautiful sky. I'm a piece of dust. I'm just a nobody. Just a piece of dust, lusting nonetheless, with some greatness when it comes to certain things such as geopolitics, you know. Geopolitics, sports, fitness, and sports and fitness, and dancing. Emotions matter, feelings matter, you know. Sometimes you just need to scream a little bit. Because if we repress emotions, and my anonymous friend said was a bit moody also, and I've been depressed, been suicidal, and that's just something which I'm no longer, it's been a long time. I still get moody, you know. I would really like to have a massage therapy session, just a massage sometimes, you know. Once in a while, that would really embellish my quality of life, my life. Because I live a very active lifestyle, you know. I have been since when I crossed Canada coast to coast 2017. That's why I have been and will continue to advocate for mass financing of citizens' fitness, physical activity, you know. It's great for mental health, and whenever I go to work out as I do now, and I have a smile on my face, I'm no longer moody, and I hope my anonymous friend gets 1 million, 1 billion, 1 trillion also, because, you know, there's been a lot of missed opportunities and XYZ, and you know, that's why we have sometimes, you know, we just gotta take the moment today. As I live carpe diem every day since I died of COVID, you know. 2020, February 2020. February 2020. I thought that was it for me. I see a rock. Let me see that. Oh yeah, oh, that's nice. Oh. Somebody that loves rock and roll. I love rock and roll also. Rock on. I love rock and roll. all different. You should have Rainbow Dragon somewhere, Megadeth, or hello, you're all with that, eh? Nobody rocks like Rainbow Dragon, man. Rainbow Dragon. I mean, you're a fan gun. Okay, yeah, I get it. You should have Rainbow Dragon there, although I'm not known. Of course, I do almost freestyle. You can see my workout training and exercising here, but that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get on that go. And I don't know what it is with that. It's got that 140, 1947. Is that Papa Crawley? No, that's the Crawley 1942. That's 850, 58, 68, right? So calculate 2010 minus 42. 2010 minus 42. 2010 minus 42. That's 68, because it's 8 to 50, then 50 plus 8, that's 58, 68. 68 years. Like that rock and roll, eh? Me too, I love rock and roll, but of course my band is, of course, Rainbow Dragon. I never seen this band before. It has different bands. It has Iron Maiden, Manowar, LA Guns, Black Sabbath, Metal Church. Oh, metal. You're all metal. Metal, rock and roll. Let me hear it. Rock and roll as I go in the sun. That's the storm. That's the cloud. Thunder loud. Ain't nobody rock and roll in this 2025 like the Rainbow Dragon up until I die. I ain't got the money in my pocket. I gotta scream it so I get it on my sockets. Gotta work out. Gotta push-ups. Gotta rock and roll, you know. And I love the black, the red, and the red's my favorite color. So you got some red on it. But that's what it is, and yeah, man, I don't know. I gotta check, because, you know, my memory goes on that blackout. I got vaccinated 3 times for COVID right here. 3 times for COVID right here, and of course, I live every day carpe diem since I died of COVID, you know, and I had COVID in 2020, between mid-February 2020, mid-February 2020, and March 2020, mid-February and March 2020, right? Mid-February and March. Mid-February 2020 and March. Mid-February 2020 and March 2020. So more than 5 years ago, and I got my 3 vaccines right here. 3 vaccinations, and that's about me. But I also please encourage you all to, you know, just wash your hands for bacteria, germs, microbes, you know. Microbes, bacteria, germs, you know, they gotta get it on the go, and that's all we got, and that's all we gotta get doing, you know. Bacteria, microbes, and germs, and that's all we got, and that's all we gotta get it on that rock and roll. So we got on those bacteria, germs, microbes which exist now, you know. So that is something which I gotta be responsive about, and please call the citizenry to please increase and keep the public hygiene of protocols of COVID, the COVID protocols, the public hygienes, the public hygiene of protocols, the COVID protocols, of the hygienic protocols, I mean, because you never know, there's microbes, bacteria, germs still, you know. When you see my videos, you see that sometimes I go and I get that wash disinfectant when I press the buttons on the bank teller, and that's what I gotta go doing now, and that's what I do. And as I do these long work vlogs here, going to my second, we're not going to the mountain now, we're heading, although we might be passing by the mountain. Now I'm gonna go see who made it to on the stormy day. I want to go see who made it to the public gymnasium, you know, to the public gymnasium. So I gotta say my gratitude once again, you know. When I passed that place there, I said, hey, you know, COVID, I had it, I was so sick. It was like death, pestilence, and disease, you know, COVID when I had it. And, you know, COVID when I had it, I thought it was like, I thought I was gonna die, you know. I say like death, pestilence, and disease is something which, of course, we gotta be introductory about, and that's how we gotta get rolling on that. But of course, it is the death, pestilence, and disease, which of course sounds like a death thrash metal song. Death, pestilence, and disease on my enemies, please. God is on the blessed, see on the side. So basically, that's what it is, and that's what we got, and that's all we gotta get doing with that, and that's all we gotta get drilling, you know. So basically that's what it is with that, and that's what we gotta get on that beautiful skyscrapers there, as you can see. So basically, of course, that's what we're gonna get now. Now it goes down. See how it pulls, the gravity pulls your legs there, because you're going down like down the slope. So it's always something which of course gonna pull you down. You got some flora, some fauna here, you know, some of that rock and roll. You can smell the freshness here whenever you pass here. There's a freshness on the side. You got these big trees, and that's what they got. And that's how we love to come here. Even you got some yellow flowers there. See those yellows? Those are something which of course they gotta be on the exquisite side, but they're beautiful on this side as well. They're kind of thick. See these ones? Look. Forget the names, but I think it's chamomile, right? This is chamomile. Chamomile, that one. Chamomile, maybe. Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe not. There's a doubt, maybe, but of course it could be that there are, of course, chamomile. So that's how we got to rock and roll with it, man. So yeah, death, pestilence, and disease. That's what COVID was for me, you know. For me, thought I was gonna die. That's why I got vaccinated 3 times, and I really thought that was it. And I survived COVID, and I survived being depressed, being suicidal. I moved in 2017 from a very moldy place, and underground basement, like mold, full of mold, underground basement full of mold, and it was like moldy, tight, like prison-like type of cell, a prison cell, you know, prison cell, mold prison cell, moldy type of black, and whitish, reddish type of greenish mold, and very moldy. And I thought I moved in 2015, but I thought I moved correction in 2016, but supposedly it was July 2015, so 10 years now. And I have those blackouts, you know, retrograde amnesia, memory blackouts are lost. I have trouble remembering my life prior to spring 2014. I have documents from high school and other letters of recommendation and journals that I kept, but there's just problem for me to memory wise. I have trouble accessing my life prior to that event, and I was attacked by surprise a few years ago in the Montreal Metro. Fell down and hit my head on the concrete. Had a dislocated right arm and shoulder, and was bloodied up. But I survived, and I went to the Jewish General Hospital. I still gotta go retrieve the documents, retrieve the archives, and gotta retrieve the archives, and that's how we have, and that's how we gotta get that retrieval of those archives and see what date it was exactly, and have that memory. Is trouble remembering, you know, trouble with the memory. I'm gonna put my glasses because it gets on that sunny. Thank you to my anonymous friend who gifted me these glasses I'm putting on now. Gonna auction them for $1 million, you know, because I'm auctioning everything that I'm wearing, the underwear, the socks, the lion. This one I just watched, the lion, not lying as in the verb not to be truthful or tell a falsehood or untruth, but there's the Lion as in the lion, and of course that's all we got. And auctioning it for $1 million to give half to my anonymous friend, I guess that would be a compensation. It would be nice, something good which I could do for somebody who wasn't my friend because of the money, because I never really had any. Although I had, I spent it first time. Rent's paid, electricity bills paid. July 17 now. I got some wafers, my post-workout wafers. I got the dog there, it's okay. Got the dog there, a little bit of the dog wildness, but if they're not poodles, I can't pet them too much, you know. If they're not poodles, I can't pet them too much, you know. That's what it is with that, and that's how we got, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and so we gotta go on the go, you know, to get it on the left and on the right, and that's how we have to be thinking about my condition, because if they approach too closely, of course I start sneezing. So I try to keep love them from a distance, unless they're poodles. I gotta give a salutation, you know, for the workers here. The workers, of course, who build these. They build all these, you know. The concrete, the steel, the metal. the steel, the metal, the concrete, and that's what they got, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, and that's what they're building here, you know. So we gotta always salute. That's a beautiful, beautiful garden, little garden here, always embellishes my march when I passed here last week, and it always gives me some of that joy, happiness, and I'm pretty much happy, joyous now, you know, but financially stressed, and I live with this neurological mental condition as I live with having survived COVID with retrograde amnesia, memory loss. Sometimes it comes back, and sometimes it's trauma which causes it, and sometimes it's not. What do you want? That's all, c'est tout. That's what you got. C'est tout. That's what you got. Take long first. This is where we gotta get big. Oh yeah. Gonna wait a little bit. Usually we wait about a few seconds. We'll wait a few seconds, and imagine just to build all this. How do they do it? It's connected with so many things, you know. Just to have this water here. Think about that. Eh? Think about that. Thank you, public workers. Thank you, public workers. I guess I would be drinking from the river, eh? Otherwise, we have to. Civilization is a privilege, brothers and sisters, you know, and here, all this that we have, you know, here in the North American Collective is we're gonna have to fuse, you know, the perspective, the dynamics of our North American civilizational complex, and you know, Aspies. Just gonna discuss a little bit about Aspies. I'm not gonna explode because I don't explode, or I don't like violence. I'm intense, concentrated, but super focused, and I don't want to waste nobody's time. Just to be clear, friends will benefits only from now on, July 17th, and I'm looking for massage exchanges and looking for support, volunteering for my dream, which is fundamentally a call, blah blah blah, for a public-private partnership, you know, for a public-private partnership across the North American civilizational complex, as we do here, you know, and as we rock and roll it here for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the truckers, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, you know, all are involved in the production, distribution of food as we go, you know, under this beautiful sky. So Asperger's, what is Asperger's? Is the neurological mental divergent condition with which I live with. I'm not going to say affected, but yes, it is an affectation, and there's a level of understanding of Asperger's and the expression of aspiness as it pertains to the characteristics, again, not symptoms of Asperger's, which of course are confluent to the matters at hand, to be prudent that we are what we are, and we are of course not a disease. Asperger's is not a disease, it's not a malady, it's not an illness. There's mutations of the brain. Aspies like myself, we have, our brains have these mutations. They're not outwardly visible, so you cannot see, you don't see outwardly the bulging of the brains, and of course the brains are not outwardly bulging or visibly mutated on the exterior of the brain, but there are of course internally the dynamics. The brain has these tiny microscopic, like 4 tiny microchips at the nanoscale, at the micro level, those mutations, right? So those mutations make us that we are, of course, inclined in certain ways, of which our inclinations are bent towards our special interests and those special characteristics by which, of course, we align ourselves on a daily basis as we interact with the neurotypical population, the 99%. Look at those beautiful white flowers. The 99.56%, right? Because we constitute a tiny minority. There's not a lot of Aspies in the world. A lot of people don't even know what Asperger's is. That's why I always discuss it in my videos, so that you know what to expect, and just do a little bit of reading, a little bit of education, and you're gonna discover what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not. Okay. What causes Asperger's, however, remains inconclusive. The vast majority of studies, of which occur on a daily basis and for many decades, it's also known as HFA, high functioning autism, although I still use myself the appellation Asperger's. Aspie. I'm an Aspie. And so, Aspies, the population percentile and population percentage of Aspies, the community, is less than 1%, less than half of a percentile, 0.44%. So that's why it's not well known. Contrast it to my fellow, because I'm part of the LGBTQ community as well. Play that Rainbow Dragon 24/7, being that I'm part of the LGBTQ community. I also gotta be prudently and say, of course, being that I'm part of the LGBTQ community is something that I gotta express myself in this matters. That, of course, the Aspiness is parallel, a tiny community contrasted to the vast majority of you, the neurotypicals, who constitute 99.56%. Right? So we always have to build bridges, and those bridges sometimes can be small, medium, large, and extra large in size, and within those 4 categories, I guess there's other 4 subcategories, so we can spread them out in the divergence of which we are today to do and to make whatever the case may be as we interline and address all the circumstantial situations which we have there and which we have on the go on the side to get it on the appellation for what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not. And that's what we have to be doing on that. And here I guess I'm gonna have to be prudent now, because going down on the muddy side, so I'm just gonna have to be doing on the left side of things, and here we're gonna have to be going slow. So I'm gonna put my hand there, gonna have to be doing on that, and that's how we're gonna do it on the left, right, Z, and that's how we're gonna get doing, so gonna get doing on those loving and get some crossing of the street here, and that's what we have to be doing, so it's something which we have to be doing, so it's something we're doing on the left, right, Z, and we have to be doing. Faites attention, vous arrêtez de bouger. On va vous envoyer à l'hôpital. Merci de bouger. On va aller à l'hôpital. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a? Martha.
Il y avait un monsieur qui travaillait au Costco, monsieur, il m'a fait capoter, le monsieur Costco, là. Il était en train de s'expliquer qu'il fallait qu'il sorte la forme de quel design. Parce que ça ferme ce design. Il expliquait ça à l'enfant de 3 ans, mais je sais pas du tout à quel point que l'enfant de 3 ans était tout seul dans le Costco. Il était juste vide. Avec l'histoire de la sorte.
Zedmao. Dead.
It's like weird. So, oh yeah, let's cross here because it's on the other side of the street. He said. Para aquí. Yes. The night that I went out in Amsterdam, I just like kind of randomly picked a place that was like not too far from where I lived. But it was like it was a little more drum and bass that I really liked. It was cute. It was very alternative. Like I literally saw like I find it kids, and I was like, what? I find here it's a little more TV. Like the hard house. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it was funny too because like okay, so I had like a couple drinks at.
Not interested. Not.
I was like, honestly, I was like, yeah. What you want? He's like, no, I was like, great. So I had a drink. And then I right next to it, the bus stop. I was like 10 minutes from the bus, and like, I a shot.
She got.
And like, you guys were like,
Goddamn. Dicks. Click. Shaking them up. Yes, so Asperger's. I wanted to make sure that I crossed the street there prudently, brutally. So Asperger's, we can be weird, awkward, strange. Awkward, weird, strange. Awkward, weird, strange, bizarre in social matters. Certain things we are impeded. We are restricted. We're less able. I'm not going to use the word disability, although in certain cases, to be honest, as an ASPE, you have to let me know if you want to be friends with benefits. I wouldn't know if somebody's interested, maybe romantically, or in a lustful manner or whatever, man or woman, Play that black and white or rainbow, you gotta let me know, and I can get creative, get artistic, get nasty. I'm not really looking necessarily, but, I wouldn't say no. So that's all we got, and that's all we gotta get doing, Hold on. So we're gonna get that, and then we're gonna discuss more in depth about Asperger's and Aspiness and how it's protruding and how it's relative to my individual Aspiness and my, of course, acceptance in the past years, because for years and years and years I denied it, and not that I denied it, but I didn't want to accept it because many citizens have diagnosed me and several people over the years and said, you're an Asp, you have Asperger's, you're on the spectrum, high functioning autistic. yeah. Whew. Oh yeah. That's what I needed. A little bit more hydration. So that's just Asperger's is this neurological mental divergent condition. There's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing an ASPE can do about it. But in terms of medication, because you cannot medicate aspiness, you cannot medicate. It's not an illness. You can't. But what one can do is understand how we see the world, because we see the world differently, and that certain things we have to be told more directly, because we might not fully understand and comprehend certain things of the societal, of the social nature, to be told more directly and in a discreet, not necessarily discreet, because we can be pretty direct and straightforward ourselves, but I cultivate politeness and goodness, and I love to serve. I love to be of service when I can, and with my artistic, athletic, and slightly comedic inclinations. Here's Park Louis Cyr. I met him in a past life. Louis Cyr. That's Park Louis Cyr. Louis Cyr was a famous, see it's written there, 1863, 1912, athlete, Canadian athlete. That's French. So that says one of the strongest men in the world. L'un des hommes plus forts au monde, one of the strongest. And he was a police officer, and I met him here in Montreal. In a past life, I did arm wrestling. I was a woman, a man, a woman, a man. I'm also a mystic. I believe in reincarnations, but sometimes I was born a man, sometimes I was born a woman, and that's how we rock and roll now. So 50-50 androgynous pansexual ASPE. So Asperger's, you cannot give medications to Asperger's. Asperger's, we can manage our characteristics. Again, they're not symptoms. So that's where you draw the line. They're not symptoms. So an ASPE does not have symptoms like an illness, like a malady. An ASPE has characteristics. And these characteristics are functionality, and in functioning, in the pursuit and the appellation, of course, is how they are inclined. And that's how the inclinations can sometimes express themselves in a more academic, intellectual manner. But basically, there can also be characteristics such as echolalia, for example, or repetition of words. Repeating words 2-3 times, right? Because repeating words 2-3 times or phrases 2-3 times is an ASPE characteristic, a trait. Also echolalia, so one ASPE might say, of course, exactly the same sentence that another has said. Exactly, repetition of the same sentence that you hear, that an ASPE heard, that you might say, a neurotypical, you the 99.56%, and an ASPE might repeat that same sentence verbatim per verbatim. That's Latin for word. So that might occur and that might happen, right? In a conversation with an ASPE. It's just because our brains, right, has the brains are mutated. ASPE brains have these mutations, and thus we have those characteristics which are very odd, weird, bizarre. Sometimes they're not, they're very strange. Sometimes they're can appear quite strange in the appellations, or seem quite bizarre also. Or things that sometimes we stare at things or at objects. So he might stare at some certain things or certain objects in a way, of course, that's without meaning to offend necessarily. Another characteristic, personal space. So an ASPE might breach, and I always have to work on that, to not get too close in conversation when I have a discussion. The 2-3 meters, 2-3 yards, personal space, we might get close. 2-3 inches close. So we might be so close to a fellow citizen in conversation that it gets uncomfortable. We even might feel for his safety or security, or get uncomfortable, or get a bit emotional, or get a bit the subconscious triggers as well, because we have emotional subconscious elements and emotions within ourselves which are not fully computable on a daily basis, or not fully understood even, Not fully understood. Not fully understood, But necessarily I'm laughing, of course I laugh at myself, and that's what we gotta get doing with that. So I also laugh at myself, but I also like to see the joy of children, you know, playing in the puddle, and their joy is there with the daddy playing in the puddle, and they're laughing, they're joyous. So that brings me joy because they're innocent. They're innocent, and that's just a moment of my day, wrestling in the puddle. Wrestling in the puddle. I'm just so happy for them, you know, they're there. And that's just made my life, their safety, their joy, and of course their hygiene. As a dad, I would only do just check to see that there's no glass before they do that. I think maybe I give the benefit of the doubt that the parent or the cousin or the uncle did that just to check with the hands. I would check myself that is safely, you know, so that there's no glass, that there's no, you know, to hurt the hands or the feet. There's no shards, there's no glass, there's no pointy rocks. So just let them do it. But first I would check the whole area where they played in the puddle. So that's just, that's the whole event of the day. Give some millionaires, billionaires, finance kids joy like that, you know, because they're innocent, the children. They're innocent. My financial stress aside, right now if I would be a billionaire in these tough times, I would just finance the youth, you know, to get the youth toys and to make sure they have food security and get toys and whatever they need. I'll just finance that. In these tough times, I'll say, hey, you know, I made since 1980 in 44 years, almost 45 years, let's say I'm on Wall Street or whatever. Let's say I would have been a banker, financier, or investment broker since January 1980, let's say, for 45 years or close to 45 years. And I would have been a billionaire. I would have, these tough times, I said, you know, what the heck? I'm just gonna mass finance youth, you know, youth joy activity. Because, I mean, they're innocent, and I write children's books, and that's what we got, and that's how we do, and that's how we got, and that's how we got it on the left and on the right, and on the doing, on the side of things, and we gotta get it on the doing. So that's just the way we gotta be doing, and on the things which we have to be interacting ourselves. But that was the whole idea. That was just because they're innocent, you know. They don't play the games we adults play, and you know, their honesty sometimes, you know. I read a lot of children's books. Sometimes their honesty and innocence is so, like, you know, pure, you know. So they got that safety, and that's what it is, and that's how we got with that, and that's how we gotta get rolling, man, you know. So that's just how I do, and that's just how I rock and roll here, to get it on the drill, you know, to get on the side of the sun, to get it loving, and that's what we're doing. That's how we have to be doing, you know. We gotta be mindful of the things which we have, and we gotta get doing, you know. Yeah, I guess so. Alright, losing, see. Sometimes, man, you know. So I'm happy now, I'm joyous, you know. Get a little bit of, so I'm not looking for, so the problem we Haspies have, you know, is something which we have on the protruded side of things, to know more understanding of things, and how my understanding of my Haspiness is thanks to my anonymous friend, who gifted me 2 books, and of course, you know, 2 books to get it on the go, and get it on the la la la, and oh man. Percentage. How many? Doesn't work, eh? Doesn't work. Doesn't work, eh? I see that they're gonna get Sharp light. In there. So that's a board. You get it now. That's how we have to be prudent on the things, you know. That's how we have to be celebrating life on a daily basis, you know. Because life is short, you know. Life is short. I don't want us spending on arguing, you know. So that's how we got, and that's how we got to rock and roll, you know. So Asperger's, happiness is something which we have to be doing on the go, and something which we gotta be doing on that left and on that right, and sometimes in the middle, man. Cause I gotta think about all this privilege of civilization which we have, you know, because the truckers on the road, what do we do if you remember? Truckers, the bakers, the butchers, the hydroelectric dam workers, who of course worked in the 20th century for us to have electricity. Think about that. Me, I'm doing this video thanks to the workers, the privilege of civilization of the workers in the past, you know. So that is just something which we have on the understanding of things, which of course we gotta be mindful and prudent about the things of which we are on a daily basis consequently. And of course on the prudent side of all things which we have under the sky on earth, that freedom is new in many ways. So my freedom, my liberty, with my neurodivergence, and consequently with somebody else's liberty and freedom to jog, to work out, to love those children in the puddle. Like I said, the only thing I hope, and I hope it was done, is that the parent, or whatever the case may be, the parent or the cousin did the checking with the hands to see that there's no shards, there's no metal, there's no pointy things, there's no glass which can harm the body of the children. Besides that, let them have fun, I guess, in the puddle, and get dirty but get back clean. I get dirty, get back clean, and I spill things, and it's good to see that innocence, you know. It's still, that's worth fighting for. That's worth, you know, being armed, carrying a lethal weapon of force, which is of last resort, of course. I'm referring to military and police forces, you know, security forces and police forces, and my own vulnerabilities as an aspies, which I had to learn, you know, learn on them, and had to learn on this side on that things, and that's how we have to be doing, you know, because I learned the hard way how my aspiness, you know, is something which I have to be doing. And being that I have Asperger's, I'm neurodivergent, and I'm just gonna go take a look on that side here on the things, and we gotta get doing on the side, and we gotta get doing on the side of the things which we have, and which we have to be doing on the left and right, and we gotta get doing on those illusions which we have to break sometimes, you know. So I guess Aspies, we break other people's illusions in many ways, and we sometimes being direct and straightforward and other things. And I just want to check this out here. See how nice these are? So you can come, and of course here you can check the checks. You can play chess if you want. So you can play chess, and of course you can play chess there if you want, but that's here which you can play chess here, you know, if you want on that, to get it on the left, and play chess right here, see? You can play, and that's what we got, and to get it on the left and in the right, or however you sit, you know, that you sit on the left and on the right, and that's how we got on the go with that, to be mindful of all these things which we have, to get it on the left or the right or in the middle. I'm gonna wait here. I'm gonna cross on this side. I'm gonna go stretch right there. Here, this is what I want to go. Put my butt down and do some stretching. Do some stretching. Left, right. Stretch my arm and continuing discussing Asperger's. So for example, I wouldn't know, of course, if I'm gonna go on the other side actually. Yeah, it's rare that we go on the other side. We're gonna cross by that bridge there. Because most of the times we stay on this side and said maybe do a little bit of that change, do a little bit of that change with that, and that's all you have to do. Because I'm just in and out, I'm just in and out, and that's all we got, and that's all we got to get out left. And here we got, So my freedom, liberty and individual freedom, and others' individual liberty and freedom is to be consequently in imprudence, and of course respectful, and with all the privileges and the responsibilities, in the public which we have, the responsibilities in which we have, and the responsibilities in the public which we have, because these are basically responsibilities. Look at that, isn't that nice? Because we have added responsibilities, myself included, we got added responsibilities, duties and obligations which I don't have under the normal circumstances, right? For example, crossing the road, crossing the street, not impeding another's circulation freedom, and whatever the case may be, but that's what it is, and that's what we got, and that's what we got to put it in balance, the individual sovereignty, liberty with another's individual sovereignty and liberty, to be consequently in prudence and safely, security and the liberty to express myself. And of course I work. It's the work out which we do, and that's what we do, so that is consequently which we have these responsibilities and obligations in the public. Because if I would have stayed home, I would have not had the same, but I would have probably continued to be moody myself. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do what makes me joyous, happy, and what I do as a routine. Because Aspies, we have routines. To understand Aspies, you have to understand special interests, also known as obsessive interest. Those special interests, also known as obsessive interest, although it doesn't render me any justice to use and utilize the word obsessive, because obsessive is something which somebody who is a neurotypical, you the 99.56% with which us Aspies have to build bridges, you have obsessions, we have special interests. But yes, from the external they can seem very, because we are super focused, super in it, super intense, super concentrated, super intense, super concentrated, super in it when we are involved in those issues. So we're super intense, super focused, super in it, super concentrated when we are involved in those special interests. So our intensity, super focus, and of course hyper awareness and hyper focus, hyper vigilance, it has to be doing that, it has to be doing on the go, so it's something that they gotta be doing on the left and right and center. So that is the consequential which we have to be doing on the left, right, and that's what we have to be doing. So it's something which we have to be doing on the left. So as an Aspie, that's how we do, so hey, this man, hey. Morning. Mon cashier, and give you some good kosher. Thank you. I didn't know.
I just acted as if there was always been like there's any.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy, really happy for those children having happiness. It's something which we gotta express, and that's the mountain, you know. That's the mountain there. So just on happiness, again, we have these characteristics which are odd, weird, and bizarre, and that's what we have to be doing. That's what we have to be living in, and that's what we have to be, of course, thinking about in all the circumstantial things of which we are. And that's the mountain, see? That's Mount Royal. That's where we were yesterday. That's where we were yesterday. Yesterday we were there on the mountain, on the mountain, on the mountain. And that's where we were. So atop the mountain there, you can see Mount Royal. The Belvedere, Condrenac is further down that way, but that's what we got, and that's what we gotta get doing, you know, to getting on the go with that. And that's what we gotta get doing on the love side of things, and we gotta get doing for those butchers, bakers, nurses, and the doctors, the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And that's how we are, you know. So that's how we have, you know. C'est des quoi? Wow, look at that. So that's what we got, and il va rentrer. Vous en rentrez, hein? So that's what it is. So us, not us, 0.44%. We have to, of course, always build bridges, you know, and that's how we are. But so that's what we have to be doing, building bridges, you know. The building of the bridges is something which we always have to be building constantly, whether those bridges are big, small, medium. Here, turn your left, right, you cross the street. Sometimes they come fast that way, so that's what we have to be doing, and that's what we gotta get doing, and so we gotta get that rock and roll. That's what we gotta get. Look at that, that's nice, you know. So that's how we gotta get doing on that drill, man. It's always something which we gotta inoculate, and we gotta check out for those nice graffitis, of which we have some, which are really, really, really nice. They're really worthy of praise, I guess, and some are just talented. It's that garden there, you know. That garden there, you know, that's something which is a garden of which we have for opponent to be doing now. Beautiful, checking out those gardens. So finalizing on Asperger's, not a mental illness, neurological mental divergent condition. Makes me another Zaspies. Predisposed, and special interests, and those special interests, you know, preoccupy our whole. Be careful, careful, careful. Now be careful on that, and let's. Oh yes, that's what I need. I need to go to a washroom here. That's what I really need. Oh yes, that's what I really need. It's pretty clean. Please keep it clean and flush, 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 flush. Just flush and wash your hands. I'm gonna see you in a bit. Oh yeah. Wash your hands, I already did. That's how we're gonna go and gonna get and oh, we're in the puddle. We're in the puddle here. Please don't scribble inside and keep it clean, keep it clean, keep it clean. That's not that drinkable. Oh yeah. So just to finalize on Asperger's, 5 more minutes, 1 more minute, a few seconds. So what Asperger's is not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent condition. As I see, the black, dark gray clouds are already coming back. So we have characteristics, and thank you again to my anonymous friend who gifted me the 2 books, and 1 book was taken out like 4 times from the library. It's called Appreciating Asperger's Syndrome. If you want to get acquainted more about it, you can just check several books, and of course you gotta appellate yourself, of course, to be prudent about what Asperger's is and what Asperger's is not, which is not a mental illness. These characteristics cannot be medicated away. I have to constantly work on them. Yes, we can be intense, super focused, and our life, daily routines revolve around our special interests. And our special interests, well, depends, because they vary, you know. They vary by citizen, ASPE, which is of course not the same as other ASPEs. And we have my special interest as a citizen sovereign ASPE, whatever the case may be, is my special interests are geopolitics, sports and fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll. So those 3, the Trinity, my holy Trinity, sports and fitness. Sports and fitness, dancing is my favorite sport. Rock and roll, as I rock and roll, can go in rock and roll trances. Rock and roll, sports and fitness, and geopolitics. So that's, even this morning, for a few hours before I left, I actually did about almost 5 hours. 4 hours of geopolitics, intense revision of geopolitical events, and of course intense revision and of my geopolitical prognosis of 2019, because I take great pride, of course, in my geopolitical work, and of course get it on the go. So that's what it is with that. So basically we gotta get it on the left, you know, on the right, and that's how we gotta get done on the blast, and you know, so that's just the special interest, you know. The special interests are, of course, prudent to be knowledgeable about, and that's how we gotta get doing on that side of things. So this aspiness manifests itself differently to different individuals. It could be that an ASPE does not share the same special interests, right? So this has to be understood, because the special interests vary. And of course, we are pretty intense. See, that gives me, of course, for Operation Northern Scorpio, which we got to operate, because that's my geopolitical domain and sphere. And of course, when I see this, it's something which we have to be doing, and that's how we got to get doing. So my geopolitics is, of course, different from somebody else's. The fact that I have geopolitics as a special interest might differ from somebody who might have architecture as a special interest. Or it could be cars, it could be architecture, might know so many things about architecture. And that's the mountain. See, that's where we were there, far off. Yesterday we pointed the camera here, but that's miles and kilometers away. We might turn to go by the mountain, if so we are inclined, and I think we're gonna do by the city. Well, I say, yeah, gotta go on that vote, gotta get us on some of that good loving, you know. So that's something which I love, you know, to get seeing on the side of things, and that's how we got, you know. So something which I love this city here, Montreal, in this life and in another life. And sometimes we just gotta get carpe diem with it. So the neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, again, is our daily habits and ritualized routines. So we have these ritual routines which, unfortunately, yes, they can be to the detriment of other things, of a social nature, of other life. We neglect things. We might neglect certain other things. And the three main problems are lack of friends with benefits only from now on. Employment is level for me in the follow community of Aspies is 80%. 80%, 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10, you know. It's really unacceptable. Think about it. It's 11 times higher than the neurotypical. 80%. 80% is 11 times higher than the neurotypical. 80%. 11 times. Keep that in mind. And also depression and suicidal rates. What got me out of being depressed and suicidal was crossing Canada coast to coast. Crossing Canada coast to coast. Crossing Canada coast to coast. That got me out of depression. In 2017, gonna be celebrating 8 years. August, I went in BC, British Columbia. BC, Vancouver, British Columbia. Vancouver, British Columbia in 2017, and of course 2017, of course, in September, I went in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and of course that event made me come out of being depressed and being suicidal, and that was something which of course I did consequently, which made me establish a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Canadians. Crossing Canada coast to coast was just such a life-changing event for me, I guess. With all that retrograde amnesia, being attacked by surprise, living with scars all over my body, and trauma and scars and healing, and survived COVID, and now financially stressed, only joyous, happy, intense when I work out, train, exercise, concentrated, intense, and super in it when I do my geopolitical revisions, and I take great pride in my work as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist. And of course I gotta restate that I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. So back in 2019, of course, I had predicted an international conflagration based on several levels and parameters of which, of course, one of the main ones was, of course, that humanity is again set towards an international conflagration, of course, is set towards an international conflagration. And that was the premise that, of course, many unresolved conflicts from the 20th century, we gotta get doing on that. From the 20th century, we gotta get on that, going with that. So the 20th century, there were unresolved problems and conflicts, and this is here we did what I call the great linguistic compromise for the North American Collective to do our great continuance of the civilizational complex with, of course, the continuing of the French language, to have the continuity of the peace in the Quebec with around 10 million Quebecers, myself included. And of course the referendum question has not been fully resolved. So there is an ongoing resolution, which of course we had made great compromises linguistic wise, because here of course in Quebec we love on the left and on the right to get in this and to reminisce about all the progress, is to understand Quebec from the beginning of the Révolution Tranquille, to understand the moment of Quebec as today, right? So you have to have a little bit of an idea of the Quebec as it is for today, which we have to be doing on the that's how you have to be doing, and that's how we have to be doing with that, and that's what they gotta be doing, you know. So that's something which we have to be consequentially about, and they gotta get on that left, right, Z, and that's what they have to be doing, you know, to get it on the go with that conclusion in mind, that they got some situational awareness of which our sphere of North American civilizational complex is fully integrated in the geographical world and in the geographical space, of which the geographical space is of course the North American Collective. And here in the North American Collective we made the great linguistic compromise, of which is the French language. So that you have to keep in mind when you study geopolitics from a North American perspective. You also have to put in mind Quebec, right? Because we're Quebecers, and the French language. So the French language is something which of course has been on the left, on the right, on the left, on the right, and in the center, which we have to be doing on those to get a drill on the left and on the on the right and in the center, because it's always a compromise from the left and from the right and from the center. And even about 2 years ago, Justin Trudeau's government financed hundreds of millions of dollars, federal money from the federal government to finance French language programs and initiatives, right? So that is something which you have to be aware. You have to be aware, have an awareness of where we state as the French language, as the Quebec, as the French language, as the Quebec, is something which we have to be consequential about in our daily life activities. So here we made a great linguistic compromise. And of course, my prognosis, my theorizing, and my conclusion in 2019, in October, November, was that due to the fact that many nation-state civilizations had not fully resolved their conflicts, that these civilizations, nation-states, are going to re-begin. They're going to re-begin. They're going to recommence. They're going to recommence their conflicts. And that's what a major part of Russia-Ukraine is, an unresolved conflict from the 20th century. And I specialize in the Cold War period, which lasted almost 45 years, between 1947 and 1991. Almost 45 years, something which you got to keep in mind. And of course, now we enter my domain, my special interest, and being myself, not just an artist, athlete, and mystic, but also an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist, who again has predicted what's happening now. So my initiatives, protocols as a philosopher, of course, are for the North American Collective, especially the DRT part of my bipolar strategy, not to be confused with bipolar. When I mention bipolar, not to be my strategy, not to be confused, of course, with the psychological, psychiatric condition. When I mention bipolar strategy, geopolitical strategy, it's only a reference to the bipolar situational complex, of which is the strategy, which is in reference only to my geopolitical strategy for the total BDD, benevolent dominance and dominion of the North American Collective, by fusing Canada and United States via my DRT, debt row fusion theory, and the democratic fusion theory, and of course the CIT, right? So that is something which you have to be in mind about when I make that reference, because my initiative strategy are fundamentally for fusing Canada and United States, the dream, the dancing goddess, dragon kingdom. So that is something which you have to fully understand and grasp. The idea is, when I say, of course, pledge your legions, I mean it 100%, and it's for the empire, for the empire, for the empire, for the empire. And of course, that is fundamentally in consequence, which we have to be appellation about, which we have to be totally understood and congruent and mental in the circumstantial prudence of where we are and where we have arrived. On this domain of the total integration of overall Canada and United States, because my brothers and sisters, the king is absent, and the Quebec sovereignty question is still, some people will still vote yes. I would vote no. I would defend the French languages. I always do, put it that bilingual, because I'm a Quebecer, you know. So I sing that French bilingual rock and roll, Quebecer, Canadian, North American. I was born in the United States 3 times, post 76, once as a woman though, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces. And it seems like they got some carnival going on there, maybe. I'm not sure what it is. It seems that maybe a little bit on that carnival. Always love to have a good time, but financially stressed, and it seems like there's some more storms on the horizon. I don't mind the storm, the thunder, the lightning. And actually, I took this route today because I wanted to see who made it to the public gym. And I put the glasses away now. Who made it to the public gym, to the public gymnasium? That was, of course, my interest to get it on the go with that. And that's what you have to be doing like that. And that's what you're doing on the go, you know. So it's something which you have to be doing consequentially.